So I welcome you all. I am Anil Ladha from Ashok Towers, and it's great that we have one of our residents, Mr. Atul Kasbekar, giving this talk today. He is a very well-known photographer and a film producer. So I have a couple of slides which I want to share with you to introduce him. Just a second. So this is the 80 Talks number 11. Mr. Atul Kasbekar, who stays in C Tower. So Atul is a graduate of the Brooks Institute of Photography, which is in Santa Barbara, California. He has made this big switch from studying chemical engineering from UDCT, which is one of the very premier institutions in chemical engineering. And I guess it must have been a very tough decision 30 years back when, engineering as a career was a set pattern for anybody to follow. To make that switch to one's passion in itself is such a great thing. And over 30 years of shooting for print photography in the country, he has shot for almost all kinds of brands and advertising agencies. He's recognized as the conceptual brain behind the famous Kingfisher calendars, which all of us know about. And probably that's India's most recognized print communication. At a personal level, Atul has been the brand ambassador of various renowned brands like Nikon, Volvo, Karl F. Bucherer, Timepiece, Puma. On the social responsibility side also, he is very active. Atul is the conceptual brain behind Project Nanhi Kali, which is a very famous NGO by Mahindra, associated with Mahindra Group. And the concept about proud fathers for daughters is what he started in association with Mr. Anand Mahindra, Mr. KC Mahindra Trust. And he's the founder of Bling Entertainment Solutions Limited, a premier Indian talent management company. He made a foray into the film production with Neerja, which in itself was conceptually a great film made on one of the great characters from India. The film opened to a tremendous critical acclaim and box office success. His next production, Tumhari Sulu, was again a great success, and currently he's working on a few projects, probably which he will talk about. One of them is a Run Lola Run adaptation called Loop Lapeta, which is starring Taapsee Pannu. So I welcome you, Atul, for this session, and welcome you all. With this, I will request Atul to start his session.
Hi, thank you, Anil. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Rule number one in any kind of Zoom thingy that you're doing, so I'm just demonstrating it for you, is that always have your camera above your nose line, because even George Clooney doesn't look good when shot from here. Okay, so if you're going to be in a lot of Zoom / computer / Microsoft Teams meetings, maybe it's a good idea for you to get this in action and take your camera above the nose line. So I just thought I'd demonstrate that for a second, because 9 out of 10 times the computer screen is below your nose, and if you lift it or your phone right now and just do this, you just find, oh my God, it's a different human being. Anyway, so okay, this is Barfi the Poodle, who I will now put down. Go away. Yeah. Thank you, Anil, for that introduction. It's been a while in this journey as somebody who's been in the visual arts, and for me, I actually met a very wise man a long time ago, and in the context of the time then, it seems really like another era, in terms of thought process. So the thing was that I met a guy called Prahlad Kakkar who makes ad films, and he said that, we've heard that line, I guess, often enough now, but at that time it seemed like, oh my God, what a revelation. And he said, I was at this crossroads about wanting to do chemical engineering or not. And because I had the grades, I had some obscene 90, I think 5 or 6% in my physics, chemistry, maths in my 12th. So that automatically meant that any bright child of the male gender of the should automatically become doctor, engineer, lawyer, CA, architect, that kind of thing. So so Prahlad said that, listen, you can go to work a certain number of hours a day. You can work for 3, 4, 5, 8 hours. I mean, unless you're in a government bank, in which case the rules are different, I guess. You'll have to pardon my occasional lapse into silly wit and humor. So please put up with that. But if you choose what it is that you love to do, then you're never really working per se. And then if you're having fun, you can really, be, working. I mean, you're playing all the time, and somebody gives you a check at the end of the day, which is pretty cool. So that, in essence, has been the story of my life as far as photography is concerned. But yesterday, I just shot for our next film for the stills, which is called Sharma Ji Ki Beti, and just draw that inside curtain, please. Pull that. So and it is my most zen space. I never look at my phone. My focus is absolute, no pun intended, and it's just one of those things where you're completely in the zone where it's all. I'm Arjuna aiming at the eye of the fish. Okay, and the person on the other side of the camera is literally the most important person in the world. And unless it's a life and death crisis, I will not attend or talk to anybody else. So and that still works. So for me, it just seemed like the perfectly right choice. And so in my head, at least, I'd like to think that Raju Hirani took my story and used it for Madhavan, for Maddie's track in Three Idiots, where the guy becomes a photographer. And like the logic being that if you're really good at what you do, the money will come, and so that's been, my trip. And the reason I'm telling you this, and I always say this at the beginning of every lecture of mine, because if this makes a difference to anyone's life, as anyone who has kids, grandkids, or them themselves, at some point to decide that, hey, you know what, maybe I can rethink what I'm doing. Or if my kid wants to be a DJ, you'll be shocked as to how much money DJs make. Just to give you a quick aside, there's a guy I know who is a voiceover artist, and he does a lot of voices, as in he does, Tendulkar's voice and someone else's, a whole lot of other voices. Last year, I mean, I know this because he proudly told me himself, and every year he tells me how much money he makes. I believe he paid tax on a declared income of about 4.5 crores. Now let's understand his investment. It's some salt water to gargle. Okay, the water has to be warm, but that, and a cell phone to take your messages as to where you need to be next, and that's it. So who would have thought that was actually possible? I'm going to show you some images of the kind of work I do, so you get a little familiar. If you have any questions, you can stop me. Apart from Katrina F's phone number, I'm happy to answer anything else that you might want. I don't know how we should do this question thing. I'm going to leave a lot of time for questions because everybody has a lot of questions usually. Yeah, so let's see some pictures.
Nice wallpaper. Which PC do you use?
Sorry, which what?
Which laptop do you use?
Oh, we use Apple everything. I don't know how to use a PC, to be
Oh,
honest. So, yeah. Okay, so that, as you can see, is the original James Bond, Pierce Brosnan. We shot him for Omega in Mumbai at the Taj. Cool guy. Then he gave me a watch as well, which was nice. I mean, not that he gave it to me. I mean, Omega gave it to him to give it to me. That's fine. And by the way, if anyone must know, it's Omega and not Omega, and they told me so. So it must be true. Next. I've done most of the work for Tag Heuer since the brand came into India. This was amongst the last campaigns that was done with Shah Rukh Khan as brand ambassador. And then we moved on to this guy. And we shot at his erstwhile studio at RK with a lot of props. And like he's on a film set. Sometimes the darndest things happen. This wasn't planned per se. And we had this old antique camera and we were just fooling around with it. And you have to think of intelligent ways of using a watch in the picture without like flashing it in your face. So this seemed like a really nice way of doing this, where you can see the watch without you saying, "Look at my watch." So again, Bachchan Jr. for Omega. There's a tennis player, Carlos Moya from Spain. This was when Titan were introducing the Xylus range.
do you also play tennis?
I used to actually. I haven't now because all my time is taken up by these volleyball people. Those are the loud, obnoxious guys you hear on Saturdays and Sunday mornings downstairs.
Oh, lol.
So I
One of
request,
them is me.
I request for the questions. It's better if you can please put in the chat rather than asking a question right now. We will have a question answer session and you at the end of the
Can you
presentation.
please repeat what you said? I can't hear you. Your voice is cracking.
Yeah, I'm just requesting that please, whatever question you have, please put it in the chat
What?
box.
What? 1 second. My Wi-Fi is lagging a lot.
Yeah, please don't ask in between, please. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So then this campaign for Tissot and with Deepika Padukone, we got lots of fantastic outfits for the shoot. I mean, I think the total amount of clothes that were on, and we hadn't bought them, but they were there on on consignment. So we would have paid for whatever got used, and eventually we just used like a simple white top from the equivalent of a Zara kind of thing. For Tissot, I don't know if anyone saw these. These were on billboards all over Europe at one point in time. So it was nice if you're walking around in Switzerland and you see your own billboard or on a bus shelter. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Amir for Titan. He had this hair at that time, which was I think for Mangal Pandey and that mustache. So we decided to use the hair effectively, essentially for the line that was "What's Your Style." So cornrows in the hair, long straightened hair. And yeah, so he was in continuity, so couldn't do anything. This is our current skipper of the Indian team for the one days for Hublot watches. I do a lot of watch work. I also love watches, so that's always nice. Okay, coming to some portraits. This is Force India. This is one of their drivers, Adrian Sutil. And we thought of an interesting way of getting the logo in by doing tattoos on them. So this was the early days of Force India. As you know, the team now doesn't exist, but this is the German driver Adrian Sutil. Next, and the Italian driver Giancarlo Fisichella. So Michael Schumacher's brother Ralf Schumacher I shot for when the Toyota team was sponsored by Kingfisher. We were flown out to a place called Jerez in Spain to I think it was Spain or France, I forget, but to shoot whatever. Obviously, we had to wait a long time for the plane to fly in the exact spot at the back and then take a picture. If anyone believes that, then For those of you into football, this was a fun shoot for Didier, for PepsiCo in England. This is Didier Drogba, the Chelsea striker. Chelsea was sponsored by Pepsi at that time. I'm an Arsenal fan. I hate Chelsea, but this was fun.
Even I'm an Arsenal fan.
Lovely. What are you doing for the next 30, 40 years?
Nothing. I'm just going to sit and watch Arsenal lose.
West Indian cricketers. This is Merv Dillon. Virat Kohli. There's Kohli in the gym. Harbhajan. These are just some fun portraits. Rahul Dravid. This is one of Sachin's favorite photos shot in Australia. John T. Rhodes. This was photographed on Bentota Beach in Sri Lanka. And Brett Lee photographed in Worli. That's Wasim Bhai, Wasim Akram. I think this was for an alcohol campaign, which of course was a surrogate because, like a good Muslim, he would not otherwise endorse alcohol. The pride of the Mumbai Indians, Kieran Pollard. And this is the Pepsi campaign that we shot in London. And we shot in London only because they were all available in London. Okay, but that's Frank Lampard on the left, Drogba, and damn it, the Spanish striker, Fernando Torres, and our boys on the right. Everybody knows who they are. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, coming to some brand work, apart from the Pepsi stuff, this was for My Glam with Lisa Hayden, and for a sari campaign down south with Shreya Saran. This is actually a really nice campaign to do. Very difficult garment to make look good. The sari, to be honest, and very limiting in terms of what you can do in terms of posing and movement. That's Shreya, yeah. That's Gopi Chand, our badminton superstar, for a water campaign down south. And Harshvardhan Rane, who was having a scene with Taapsee Pannu and Haseen Dilruba, in case anyone saw that film. For Shazay, we've done a fair amount of work for them. They have some really interesting gift items, especially for a bar. That was a sales pitch, I mean it. This is for Starbucks, the first campaign Starbucks done in India. And for designer Vikram Fadnis. Back to Shazay. Priyanka for Pepsi. Ranbir for Pepsi. These are all really actually pretty simple, straightforward thingies. It's just that the brand is massive. For a builder in Pune with Farhan Akhtar. Shahid Kapoor for VIP. Tendulkar for Adidas. And this is one of my favorite campaigns from long back because we really did a number on Yuvraj Singh, working on his hair and so on. The campaign was very well received. L'Oreal. Mahendra Singh Dhoni for Boost. And this is Shah Rukh for Airtel in the early Airtel campaign. Okay. Deepika and Ranbir for the cover of L'Officiel. Always nice to do this when people are seeing each other at that time. Go back one, please. So this is a 3-page fold-out cover. So there's Sonam hugging Sonam next to Sonam. So you have to use a body double in between to get the contact between arm and the other person, and then substitute whatever. So it's a lot of Photoshop work to make it really, really authentic. So the first part of the cover is Sonam with Sonam, and then the second part of the cover is Sonam with Sonam, and then the writing is on the third part. Okay. An earlier cover for L with Deepika. I don't think she was in better shape ever. It's pretty fantastic, the physical condition she's in. Yuvraj Singh, Lisa Hayden, from some editorial for L. By the way, you should follow her on Instagram because now she has 3 kids living in Hong Kong and she's still water skiing. So I keep sending it to friends and saying, what's your excuse? That's the lovely Angela Johnson. Half Indian, half Icelandic model, this one. Which brings me to my other pet theory, which I think is true, that crossbreeds make the most beautiful children, even in India. Mayor Jaisa. This is an interesting campaign I did for Vogue, editorial actually, and it was for larger women in fashion. So this is Samira Reddy, and the women who are, fit but have a chunkier build, and then there's this huge issues about body shaming and so on. So this is actually a few years ago. Before that became the cool thing to do. So.
Atul, I mean, sir, can I please see your dog? I love dogs.
Okay, can we do that later, please? Are you serious?
That's more interesting than this.
Okay, then you log off, na? What's your problem?
Well, I like the way you speak.
Okay, then let me speak.
Aryan, we will do it later, please. Yeah, Atul, please continue.
Yeah. So, okay. Right then. Yeah. So again, this plus-sized women for that feature. So it's always an interesting challenge to do something that's out of the ordinary. So, this I really enjoyed doing this. Coming to the Kingfisher calendar, I'm going to show you some images from 19 years of doing this. And this is Deepika Padukone shot at a place called Kangaroo Island in Tasmania. No, sorry, not Tasmania, south of Adelaide in Australia. And the shot was quite iconic for her at that time. So what happened was there's the Pirelli calendar and there's the Sports Illustrated calendar, which have been iconic in their own right. So they, I'll explain to you in a nutshell for those who may not be familiar. So Pirelli is a calendar shot by different people every year, and it's for Pirelli tires, and they shoot women and they have some kind of theme or the other, but it's not necessarily swimsuits. But the important thing with Pirelli is that you can't acquire it. It has to be sent to you by the chairman of the company. And so and Sports Illustrated, what happens is that it's a calendar that you can acquire, and it's only swimsuits, so it's not exclusive. So we did a marriage of both. A swimsuit calendar that could only be sent to you from the desk of the chairman, and I'm happy to say that it has probably discovered and launched more talent than anything else, much more than all the pageants and everything put together. So yeah. This is in the Andamans. There's this elephant called Raja who was an absolute joy to shoot with. Great fun. Next. This is in Mykonos in Greece. Also Mykonos, I think. वो freezer में रख दो ऊपर. This is in the Maldives. Also in the Maldives, that's Lisa Hayden again. That, by the way, is easily my favorite model of all time. Somewhere in Greece again. This is off Thailand. and this is underwater in Thailand. Okay, we do a lot of corporate image photographs for heads of corporations and stuff, and you'll see a bunch of them in there. Now, that's Mukesh Bhai, shot on the roof of Seawind some years ago. And part of the process is if companies spend a fortune on their corporate identity, which is their logo, and on their product identity. So Apple phone looks a certain way, and a Samsung phone will look another way, and also the spatial identity. So let's say if you go to a Burger King, it looks different from a McDonald's, and there's a certain familiarity to going to a McDonald's anywhere in the world. To give you an example of some place you should never go into, but so it's baffling in India as to why people don't take care of their management identity, because these are the people, the faces that represent your, the company. So it's something we started some time back, and it's great fun because you get to meet some really interesting, fun people. And I think there's a power one has in terms of, appealing to people's, for lack of a better word, vanity, where, they can look their best. So we go in with stylists, makeup artists, hair people, we retouch the photos, we'll make them look a few years younger and 5 pounds lighter. This is our friend from the Serum Institute, Adar Punawala, and Sajjan Jindal, Kumar Mangalam Birla, and Ratan Tata, the erstwhile Zodiac Grill, Ajay Piramal, also Ajay Bhai. There's the famous lawyer Anand Desai, and Anil Ambani. Okay, so let me open this up for questions right now. And what I wanted to also run by you is that, the other part of what I do is actually make movies where I don't want to direct, I want to produce, because I think what's happened is years of managing celebrities and listening to a zillion scripts and so on, and taking pictures myself. The space I see is that it's a bit like I feel like one is playing Zubin Mehta. My job is to create a platform on which a bunch of talented people can come together, a director of photography, that's the cameraman, editors, music people, script writers, dialogue writers, all come together, and hopefully on that platform that I've created, that you can, conduct it into becoming some sort of symphony. And if it doesn't work, then you'll get cacophony. Okay, so it's a lot more difficult than a still shoot, because there's literally like 180-90 line items that you have to watch out for, and it's a very tough business, but it's great fun, because for me the rush is interacting with creative people all the time, and that's my jam. Our next film is going to release on a major OTT platform. It's called Loop Lapeta. It is the official Indian adaptation of the German classic Run Lola Run. It's directed by an ad film director called Akash Bhatia, and headlines Tapsi Pannu and Tahir Raj Basin. After that, we have a film that's directed by Ayushmann Khurrana's wife, Tahira, and that's called Sharma Ji Ki Beti. We actually were supposed to have made that 3 years ago, but some of you might know that she had a cancer scare and then had a mastectomy. Now she's totally okay, thank God. And we followed it through and made the film. Then we have one in Vidya Balan, which is 10 days away from finishing shooting. And thanks to the pandemic, everything's on top of each other right now. So, one's on release, one's in post-production, and, so on. There's 3 more in the pipeline that are already in various stages of development. And the one after that, which is untitled so far, which will go on, and not announced as yet, will go on the floors at the end of March. So let me open this up for questions. I'm sure people have whatever. You can, Anil, you can,
Yeah.
you want to unmute people?
Yeah, so the way I thought we can do it is if you can please raise your hand and I'll unmute you and then you can, ask your question. Yeah, Mr. Nair, you can unmute yourself.
Can I ask a question, Atul?
Yeah, please.
Yes, please, of course. Yeah.
This is Raj here.
Hi,
See, there
Raj, how
are
are you doing?
hundreds of talented photographers in this country. But what makes Atul Kasbekar Atul Kasbekar? It'll help a lot of young people here who are talented, but they're in the midst of a whole lot of other talented people. How do you differentiate?
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a problem in most professions. But it's a good question. What's happened, especially in photography, is that with the advent of the camera on the smartphone, the process of photography has become democratized in a ridiculous form. On a given day, literally, my dog trainer can take an earth-shakingly great photo. Okay. And it'll probably be a better image than I could have taken on the day. And that's a fact, as could, my lawyer, my cardiologist, and whoever else you can think of. But on no given day can I go argue a case in the Supreme Court. On no given day can I go and change somebody's arteries in an operation theater, And, so what's happened is this as a profession has got to some extent, I don't know, cheapened because everybody can do it. And there's so many apps that you press 3 buttons and all of a sudden it's a dramatic difference to the image. So to be fair, I think I was lucky, right place, right time. Like right now, you throw a stone, and you probably it'll ricochet off 3 people, and 2 of them will be photographers or claiming to be. So it's an extremely tough profession. Luckily for me, I had anticipated this earlier. And branched out into other things, so I wasn't dependent on this. And looking at this very early, I got some advice from Hussain Saab, who was amongst the very few people, the artist Maqbul Sidai Hussain, who I knew very well, and spent a lot of time with him in Dubai when he was exiled over there. And one of the few people whose feet I always touched is that his thing was that, if you're an artist, you should always take inspiration from other arts and not your own. So I tell this to every single art student that wants to know, is that, you should look at architecture. You should look at food. You should have all kinds of kidas in your life, which I've routinely maintained at all times, because, a great chef is an artist. Okay, to go to the opera is to appreciate another form of art. You may not get into it, but subliminally somewhere it comes into your being, and when you press the button at 125th at f5.6, it's a distillation of the cocktail of your life experiences that is coming into why you press the button at that time. You see, and I think that's super important. So even now, I'll maintain a whole lot of stuff. I'll collect rare tequilas. I am a beyond ridiculous sneaker collector. I'll read anything that passes my desk, and so I'll try and be as much of a sponge to assimilate as much as knowledge from all over the place as possible. And I think that's extremely important for any artist. I've tried to stay ahead of the curve doing this constantly. But good question.
Answer. It'll help everybody understand what they should do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Raj. It was a great question. Thanks. Next is Prashant. You can unmute Prashant and ask.
Hi, Prashant.
Hi, Atul. How are you? All great pictures and very love to see your work. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I guess for someone who has definitely passion for photography, but maybe limited in terms of the gadgets, right? So who is using maybe smartphone or some sort of introductory SLR camera, right? What would you recommend for someone like that? How they can improve as the quality of the pictures they take every day?
Oh, I don't know which courses are there. Frankly, you can take. Personally, I feel, YouTube is the best educator in a lot of stuff. There's a lot of courses you can do online, but the best thing is after a while you just have to keep shooting. I'm sure you do something else for a living, so you want to do this just to become a better photographer, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So I think there'll be a lot of specific courses that you can actually take online, and there's somebody somewhere in the world teaching you whatever. Over here, I don't know how active they are right now, to be fair, but what's this guy's school called? Girish Mistri's? Shari Academy, sorry. So there's a place called Shari Academy, SHARI. They were doing courses at all kinds of level, which was like a 1 week thing and a 1 year, all the way to a 1 year thing. So you might want to check them out. But personally, my view is there's a lot of courses that you can actually pay for, and I would recommend that you could even actually pay for it, and which are more tailor-made to exactly what you want to do. So if it's portraiture, it's something. If it's wildlife, it's whatever, So if you want to shoot wildlife, just come to the volleyball court. You can do that, for practice on Sunday mornings.
Thank you, Atul.
We have the Blue Panther there every morning. Anyone else? Sorry, anyone else have a question?
Is there nobody else? Can I go on?
There's Nirman wants to ask. I can see a Nirman on my screen.
Okay. Anil, I'm in queue. I'm already unmuted. Okay. Atul, may I ask a question? Hema,
Yes, of course. Please go ahead. Hi.
Hi. So you said about when you were talking about Lisa Hayden, that you said
Yes.
she's by far my favorite model.
Yes.
I wanted to know what's the characteristic of a good model? Why is she a favorite?
So first of all, she's almost 5'10", and just in terms of physical proportions, there's a certain. I mean, let's say if you're a boxer and you have a longer arm reach, that's an automatic advantage, right? So with no disrespect to people who happen to be vertically challenged compared to somebody who's 5'9", she's 5'9". So that is a big boon in terms of whatever. Then the other thing is, just in proportion to the human body, it's always nicer if you have longer legs and a shorter torso. So hers is perfect from that ratio. So the flare of her hips and her waist is very high. So the legs seem like they could tie a reef knot around something. Yeah, and also, I mean, that face, part Australian, part Indian, Anglo-Indian, and like I give you 100 examples of mixed breed children being the most beautiful.
Sure.
And she's stunning. But the other thing is, there's an innate confidence that comes with knowing that you can work the camera. So even if she gets a substandard professional to shoot with her, she'll work the camera and work him. So if you're generally aiming in a direction, any of you could make her look magical. She's just phenomenal. The other one is Malaika, who's also incredible. But Malaika is like 5'4", 5'5". So just in terms of that proportion.
Right. No, you're talking of the physical proportions. I was wondering whether there's something more to the attitude or to the professional approach or something.
Yeah. So no, everybody has a professional approach. Everybody's in shape. If you throw a stone in Warsaw, you'll hit a 6-pack. So there's no. I mean, earlier, oh, that person is in shape was something to be, proud about. It's like me saying my lenses don't have fungus, and my lights are all working. That makes no sense. They're supposed to be working. If you're a model, you're supposed to look amazing, right? So,
Right.
So everybody's in shape. Everybody shows up on time. Everyone's professional. Nobody's badly behaved. But there's an innate confidence where there's a certain sense of balance that she has better than most. Where, let's say, if you just shoot her against a white background, with her left wrist is balanced with her right ankle, if that makes any sense. She can hold a photo using nothing,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, super important for someone to. Yeah.
Okay, I get a sense of what you're saying. Not entirely, of course, but to some extent. Secondly,
Let's just say she's blessed.
yeah, okay. The second is just curiosity. How many countries have you been to?
Oh, I don't know. I've never counted, but lots.
Okay.
So I don't know. It must be at least 50, 60.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So
Yep. There was a third one where you were describing this picture of Sonam versus Sonam and some other girl in the middle, and you were talking about a hand coming from somewhere. I could understand the technicalities, but is there something more you could explain?
no. So if you see the final image, what's happening is there's Sonam Kapoor with Sonam Kapoor with Sonam Kapoor.
Oh, the middle is also Sonam Kapoor.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So then what happens is you shoot the first one, but you have to plan very, very carefully that, okay, the second one's going to be touching the first one on her arm.
Right.
So then you use a stand-in model to put the arm, so you get that. So you have the arm photo, you have the photo with the arm, with somebody else's arm, without somebody else's arm, clean. And then Sonam comes in and the stand-in model stands where Sonam was, and then Sonam puts her hand in approximately the same spot. And there's a computer artist sitting on Photoshop right there and seeing if the proportions are working. So, and then the light doesn't change, the f-stop doesn't change, the lighting doesn't change, because you have to make it look like it was shot with three different people, but in effect it's the same person. It's like a double roll or a triple roll in films, that kind of thing.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask.
Okay, thank you, Amrika. Next, I will request Prasanna Bosky. Please unmute yourself.
So I've crashed this gathering. Hi, Atul.
Hello.
By virtue of being part of, the IIM Bangalore 92 batch. Hi, Anil.
Yeah, hi.
So question, how do you manage to be such a star and still stay grounded, Atul?
I don't know, man. I think I read this story long back of not Demi Moore, what's her name? Oof, she was on the cover of Premier magazine as one of the 6 people to watch out for with Barbara Streisand, and she was in Black Widow, the film Black Widow. Can someone Google that really quick and tell me, please? Just check who the actress in Black Widow was. Anyway, so she was meant to be the next big thing in Hollywood, and she was shooting a film somewhere in Central America, like Guatemala, Salvador kind of thing. It was a war film, and she was meant to go back in her Pajero kind of thing through these jungle roads. And I can't see.
Is this Scarlett Johansson?
No, Black Widow, yeah, the movie.
Oh, yeah, Black Widow movie. Scarlett Johansson is one.
No, not Scarlett Johansson. Anyway, so the grip guys told her, why don't you ride with the boys one day, and we'll go back in the 3-ton army trucks that were there. So she gets in the back and holding onto a rope at the end, chatting with the light guys and grip guys and so on. And the jungle roads hits like a bump. She flies off the back, lands in the back of her neck, and was paralyzed for a very, very long time. Husband, who was also meant to be the next big thing, left her, and then she was a vegetable in bed for the longest time. Okay, so I just think the mercurial nature of life is just so, as you get older, I think you kind of realize this. And I think the pandemic taught all of us to live every day as it could be. Vikram Goel won't be happy to hear this, but last year, earlier actually in the second pandemic, I had this really nice bottle of Macallan, which I was malt whiskey, which I was saving. I said, "Yaar, beti ki shadi mein khol denge types." And I was alone at home, and I just said, "What the hell, yaar? You may as well drink it now." So I opened it, and I had this absolutely exquisite, horrendously expensive whiskey I was saving for a very long time. And I said, you know what? Hopefully the energies of the universe will allow me to buy another bottle when my daughter, if and when, gets married. So, yeah. So I think just the vagaries of destiny, and if you believe in such things, is enough to tell you that you should be very grateful for wherever you are right now.
I have another question. What's your branding mantra?
Branding mantra? Yeah, I don't have any branding mantra. I just try and be as normal as possible, honestly. So I've never had a publicist. I've never had someone who's, promoting, let's say, my Instagram or anything. It's unless I'm doing a brand engagement, in which case the brand will do it. But other than that, it's really pretty much been organic. I'd like to think of myself as normal.
Thanks, Prasanna. And now I'll request Vikram. Please unmute yourself, Vikram. Yeah.
So Atul, I don't like the McAllen you had all by yourself.
There's still some more. You can come back.
Okay. And the second one is you should shoot the volley guys playing. I don't know whether you're a part of the volley gang.
No, there's a certain minimum benchmark of good looks I need. Okay, we can't just shoot anybody like this. So
Atul, I have.
So are you Vikram? Is HDFC sponsoring a volleyball calendar? I mean, we can talk about it. Has Vikram left? So
No, we just spoke about minimum benchmark and all this stuff. I think HDFC will sort of go by the same standards.
So Atul, I have one or two questions. First question from my side is that when do you think was your first break? When you must have learned photography, you must have started photography in a normal course of things. But when do you think was your first break which came into profession?
Yeah, so I shot well, there were two. When I came back, I shot everything. So I did a really nice breakthrough campaign for Vadilal ice cream with a brilliant art director called LC Nanji. And one technique I'd learned in the US I used here, and that went off really well. And all of a sudden, everybody was asking me to shoot ice cream. And then I got a really huge break thanks to Rahul Dukunia and Prashant Godbole at Lintas. And that was for Raymond Park Avenue, which was massively noticed. And then, then the phone just kept ringing. So those were the two, pretty much.
Great. And then second question I have is more on the film production side. Probably as far as I know, at least in 80 Ashok Towers, probably you may be the only resident which has such close linkages of into Bollywood. Being people outside the Bollywood, naturally all of us see the world from a glamour perspective, and we think that the whole Bollywood world is probably rose tinted and also. Just wanted some views from you since you know the insights of the Bollywood, how is working there, or what are the any points, any thoughts around that?
Just a bunch of normal people making a living, yeah, and same bunch of insecurities, same bunch of stresses, same bunch of whatever. You just happen to know about them. They're not doing anything different that other people are not doing. It's just that you maybe don't want to know if, XYZ executive in a bank is having a scene with the junior vice president. Do you care? You don't. So, maybe here, because you know of them, it matters. I know enough and more people, who I can name on my fingertips, who have tried narcotic substances. It's not like Bollywood as an international drug cartel, which is out there spoiling people. Not the case. So, not more or less than any other profession, whether it's somebody in the legal world, or whether it's somebody in the banking world, or whether it's somebody in whatever else world, stock market. So, it's just people, really. That's all there is to it. But here's the thing, is I'll tell you what is Bollywood. Okay, nobody bothers to stay for the 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes at the end of a movie where there's rolling credits of hundreds of names. Okay, sometimes 700-800 names of names you'll never know. Okay, it'll be some Sadashiv Deshpande who's a light boy and who's making 1,500 rupees to 2,300 rupees a shift. And that guy wants to send, his daughter Savitri to school. and he happens to be working in Bollywood. You don't know him, you don't care. So when these asinine, moronic, shitty statements come across, like, we should ban Bollywood, I want to say that here are 5 fingers, pick one. Seriously. And this gets me really, really angry, because, here's the deal. The actors, you're not affecting in any way. They're sitting on hundreds and thousands of crores, and they're perfectly comfortable faffing at home for the next 10 years. It makes no difference to their lives. The people you're really affecting are the people in the end credits of every movie, who are honest day workers who you would never bother to know. Okay. And that to me is Bollywood. So I think it's super important that people understand the difference, when they make sweeping, idiotic statements. I want to catch people and beat them when that happens, because you know what? You're being grotesquely irresponsible to, an entire community of human beings, which is not a star. And they're making a living like anybody else. So that was my rant for the day.
Yeah, no, I understand. Media always put, especially in case of Bollywood, they always put extremes. They will put celebrities in one side, probably, and put all other adverse events and take things to extreme. And there is a whole industry. There is a very large number of, especially probably in Bombay, a very large number of people who derive employment and livelihood from Bollywood. So. Yeah, it's
all over. I mean, not just here. I mean, whether it's in Hyderabad, whether it's in Chennai, in the Malayalam industry, the Bengali industry, Marathi industry, everywhere. We have a flourishing film industry everywhere. So, it's just
right. So, what do you find more interesting now? Now, since you have done film production and you have done photography, so which is more still close to you, or which is more interesting for you now?
No, the number one thing for me will always be to, make photographs. And that really is my original turn on. It still works great. So that would be something that I think I could pretty much do for the rest of my life. I genuinely enjoyed. In fact, in the first lockdown, in the volleyball group, we had this photo contest that kept happening, which was great fun, because a lot of kids took part, and, and then, like, we were judging it and giving random prizes, and so it's quite a rush to participate in anything that is visual for me.
So great, Atul.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Yeah. Anybody else? Please raise your hand. Yeah. Jashriji. I'll just unmute you. Yeah. Please unmute yourself. No, you're still not unmute. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Great morning. Thank you so much for all the information that you gave us. I'm keen to know what is the kind of preparation you have to make to take even a simple picture.
That's a very generic question, very difficult for me to answer.
But does it need more people than you to construct the whole scene, or you are able to do it?
No. I mean, unless you're somebody who shoots photojournalism, in which case you're recording what you're seeing. Like the great Steve McCurry, for example, who's a brilliant travel photographer. You should follow him on Instagram if you are. Steve McCurry. So people like that. But other than that, anything in advertising, it's completely planned as to what you're going to do. And there's, makeup artists, hair people, apart from the talent, of course, which is the models, and then, the stylists, the designers, the people who are making the props, the sets. And after it's all, lighting support. And after all that is done, then there's retouching that happens, where we go on Photoshop and we make everything look fake. So then you believe those people are actually that much more beautiful than they are, which they are to start with. And, so yeah. It's, I mean, at the end of the day, I assure you, Shah Jahan didn't build the Taj Mahal.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work.
Because the way I have understood that your profession, I thought it was a lot of work involving a lot of people. And I was wondering who all contribute to a good picture.
All the people that I just mentioned to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
I'm going to show you something. Let me give you, how much time do we have, Anand?
Whatever, I mean, next couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes we have at least.
Okay, let me just show you something that since you asked, surprise, I'm going to give you some simple basic photo tips. Okay, so you can take a better picture with whatever it is that you're shooting with, and that could be your smartphone as well. Okay, so first of all, I would say you shoot a lot of pictures. A lot of people just shoot like that one shot and think they got it. Chances are it will be better. So even if you're shooting a picture of your daughter, partner, mom, dad, whatever, shoot 8, 10, 20 shots. Okay, then you can go through it, edit, and then your excess images you'll never really bother seeing. So I would recommend that you then delete the excess. Okay, so shoot a fair bit so you can be certain that you've got the shot, and then after that you should get rid of the excess. Okay, we've stopped making prints, and I don't understand why we've stopped making prints, because how often are you going to open your computer to look at your favorite picture? But if it's on your mantelpiece in a nice frame, you will actually see it certainly more often. So I think everybody should revisit this thing of making prints. And when we make prints, don't get caught up by sizes, everything. 4x6, maximum 8x10 is a decent size to keep. Make a interesting collage on your walls, save the photos. And I have print collages everywhere, in my offices as well as at home. There's one behind me right now, but that's all fine art. Right. Phones can crash, computers can do the same, and so on. So I would always recommend that you have a backup. Just have a hard disk somewhere that stores your better shots. And these are, again, the better shots, not the excess which you've deleted and sent into digital oblivion. Okay, this is important. There's a flash on your, even on your phone, which is actually extremely weak. But I think what's a good idea is for you to use fill flash, even if you're outdoors. What it does is it just takes away if the shadows are too harsh, then it sort of takes that away and it makes it like brings everything more in range and within control. So I'm a big proponent for fill flash. Every single photo you saw on Kingfisher shot outdoors, every single, has an outdoor flash being used. It's never only natural light, at least, for my personal style of shooting, which has actually served me really, really well. For some reason, people think that the lens cleans itself. It doesn't. And you're in your pocket, in your bag, from your finger, the lenses are always dirty. Before every picture, I actually will just blow on it and then clean the lens, because it actually works to get a sharper shot. Okay, now this is interesting. I think shooting with the sun behind me onto the subject is extremely boring. I'll give you an example as to what I mean. When you shoot a sunset, the sunset is in front of you usually. And then when the sun is setting, or a sunrise, when the sun is rising from across the mountains, you will get these rays of light, which are breaking over the mountaintop. And the bottom of the valley is dark, and maybe there's some fog. And, because of the fog in the air, the dust in the air, you can see the rays of light coming through. It's hitting the back of leaves and they're glowing golden. So that's all happening because it's backlight or it's side light. This doesn't happen if the sun is behind you and you're watching the ocean. The ocean is black, correct? So, so I would recommend that even when you're shooting pictures, it's always nice. I mean, I have shot with the light source directly behind me, but that's usually for classic beauty shots where you want the color of the, lipstick or the nail enamel to show accurately, only then. But otherwise, I almost personally prefer to shoot with the sun anywhere but behind me. Okay, this is, you want to compliment a photographer or somebody who's taken a decent picture, please call it a photograph. And if you really want to compliment them, call it an image. I will beat you if you call it a pic or a snap. Okay, it doesn't happen in a snap. It's usually planned, and a pic is downright disrespectful. So, photograph, photo, nice shot, that's borderline, will do. But ideally, yes, photograph or image. So you want to be nice to someone who takes pictures. That's what you do. And when you get better at it, then the general idea is that, he creates images. See what I mean? It just sounds so nice. Like with anything else that you do for a living, practice will always make progress. Practice never makes perfect because there's no such thing as perfect, so that's my personal view. It just gets you higher up the ladder and higher up the curve, and then you're better at a sport, you're better at yoga, you're better as a photographer, and so on. That's it. That was the last one. Oh, cool. Wow. We have no more advice to give. So, yeah. So, those are just some simple tips I thought I'll share in case that helps anybody be better visually.
Thanks for these great tips. Atul, I have with Mr. Ravindra. You are raising your hand. Do you want to ask a question, please? Yeah, please unmute yourself and you can ask. Yeah, no, please unmute yourself. You are still mute. No, Mr. Ravindra, you are, please unmute yourself. Yeah, now you can ask.
Am I audible?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
you are.
See, I'm a new resident at the Ashok Towers B. I'm a consultant radiologist at Saifi Hospital. I'm 83 now, and radiographers are known as photographers, and I learned my radiography in England in 1966 by Kodak Company, because radiograph is nothing but a photograph. Ultimately, we want to know the sharpness, contrast, density, latitude, focusing. I have now all 10 cameras with me, which I bought first in 1966. How do you look now? The art of photography is disappearing because you just click on the cell phone, which earlier what we learned was a different kind of teaching,
Yeah.
You see, it is the man behind the machine, which is important. So, you can have any camera, but if you know photography well, am I right?
Yeah, the thing is that, look, everything, changes. We'll probably be talking 50 years from now about, there used to be cars that we put a liquid inside, which was called petrol, and some were called diesel, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure when cars, for example, were this thing, people were talking about, my grandfather used to go to work on a horse carriage. So I think eventually everything is all about progress. So today, an image is actually created, and it took me a while because I studied on film. So it took me a while to get tuned into the fact that, eventually it's about creating a photograph, and that need not now happen in camera. So we'll shoot sometimes lots of little bits, knowing fully well what we are going to do later. And that just happens to be today. It's some, one just needs to embrace technology and just get on with it. That's really the way I see it. Yeah, there's no point. Yeah, it's going to keep advancing. You just have to say that I'm not going to be the last person who owns a franchise to sell horse carriages. You see, so that's all. So, I guess one just has to say, life has moved on, let's move with it. So,
yeah. Because radiographers are known as photographers, urologists are known as plumbers, and the orthopedic surgeons are known as carpenters. It's just a joke.
Mr. Hinduja has a question, I believe.
Yeah, Mr. Raka Hinduja, you can unmute yourself.
So, Mr. Atul Kasbekar, I've been following your work for years. It's been fabulous. I've got two serious questions for you. I'll go with one serious question and one,
and one semi-serious.
Semi-serious, yeah. Yeah. So I'll go with the serious one first. So what does
With
one
your
need
with a
to
first name like Raka, I'll take you seriously always. So
Yeah, always. Yeah. So the question will ensure that it is serious, right? So what does one need to do to come to your shoot at the Kingfisher Calendar? Yeah?
I don't think this is going to be a calendar shoot anymore because
But
it's all under new management. So I think we're done at the 19-year mark because
wow.
there isn't one next edition. So save the copies you got, my friend, because they might be worth something someday on
Yeah,
eBay.
I'll tell you what is happening with those copies later. But yeah,
And then
yeah,
what was your second? And this was, I take it, this was a serious question. What's the next question?
yeah. How does one get better at spiking?
Okay. It just depends if you're physically blessed or challenged.
Yeah. Okay. The
but
next one
but
is
I would suggest if you want to get better at spiking, there's a gentleman whose last name is Rivari. I believe he lives on the 13th floor in Sita. Yeah, he's the guru of all spikers.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
also known as the Blue Panther, which is if he sells me his life rights, that will be my next series of films.
Yeah, wonderful. He's learned some new abuses apparently from you. Okay, the next question is from Danesh. He wants to go now.
Okay. Anil, are we allowing lawyers to ask questions?
Yeah, only if these are observations, not questions actually.
That's also true.
So Vikram, you raised your hand again. You want to ask anything or?
No. Yes, I want to ask a question, and this one is rather serious, but not as serious as one Rakesh asked. Atul, any views on NFTs? You know, my son has been after my life, but is it? I don't understand this. Any view on this? I don't know whether it's in the same line of business or whatever. But if you have any views on.
So actually, in the last 10 days, we've been approached by 3 different people to create NFTs. I think one has to screw one's brain into understanding that how this works. So now, seriously, let's take a look at this. So this here is a Hussein
Atul, maybe you have
horse.
to start with very basics on what NFT is, because I don't know the population, including me, even understands or knows the full form.
Okay, so NFT is a non-fungible token, which is essentially something that you can trade and it exists in a virtual form. And it could be anything. It's actually very complicated to explain this small little thing, but so people are selling, let's say, artworks as an NFT. And so that's what I'm saying. You need to get your head screwed around to understanding this. Now, for example, let's say I have this painting and it happens to be a Hussein, but if I got the rights from him or his family that to make prints out of, then I could make prints and sell them. Now you have it, but I have the original. You could come to my house, take a picture of this and make it your screensaver, and that's all right. Okay. But the original is with me. Only thing is the original here is in a physical form. So you have to get your head around to understanding that this is a virtual thing I bought, but the ownership, which is established on a blockchain, it's very clear that Vikram Goyal owns this. But Anil and Jayashri and the good doctor and Raka and everybody else could also display it on their phone, display it wherever, but they don't own it. Okay. So just as I gave you this example with a physical form of art, okay, you need to start saying that, okay, you know what, this is something I can actually buy and invest in. The market is very nascent in India. Every single one who has started, including I believe Bachchan Saab's thing, has not worked. So then what happens is the promoters end up buying 4 or 5 of them and then pretending like it worked well. That's the inside dope that I've got. Don't quote me, but this is what I've been generally told that it's not worked. But there needs to be a lot of maturity to the market that eventually comes to India. And we are always a few years behind on this cycle. Like, for example, let's say it took a while for sculptures to get the value that they deserve because everybody was buying art equaled painting, you know. So for somebody to start buying, let's say, sculpture, okay, took a while for people to understand that that could be a form of art as well. So, you know, so a non-fungible token, will it do well? Yes, I think so. But I think it will take a while for the education of the human mind to come to terms with the fact that there's something I own, and there's no doubt that I own it, except that it's not physically in my hand. So.
Yeah, next we have Prasannan. Prasanna, you can unmute yourself.
Good morning, Mr. Kasbekar. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Rewari. How are you this morning?
No, just can you just throw some light on the importance of fitness in your life and how this has helped in your profession? Anyhow, we admitted into you to volleyball group after seeing your fitness. So
Thank you. So my personal theory is at the age of 30, all gentlemen should buy a horribly, horribly expensive suit that they cannot afford, and then try and fit into it for the rest of their lives. So I told my son this, and I told him that, he's going to pay for it himself, but I'll take him to like Savile Row or something and make him spend 3,000-4,000 pounds, which he cannot afford for sure. And then that it's cut to cut. Okay, there's no leeway for alteration and stuff. Now that's your benchmark, boy. Fit into it. So I just think, but as a personal discovery, I have to say that, listen, I discovered yoga only a year and a half back, and it's the most mind-altering and life-altering experience I've had. So I can't recommend it enough in case you didn't know that already. So, but in what it is that I do, I'm climbing on walls, I'm on the floor, it's a very physical activity. And, just as I don't like the sun directly behind me, I don't want to just shoot from the straight on angle, because that angle everybody's seen. So I'll try something else. And usually there's some magical thing that will occur, from some warped angle for which you need to be reasonably fit to get to. So that helps. And then there's the function of vanity as well, which helps if you can fit into the same suit.
So great. I think we have, so I'll take the last question, Atul. I think Mr. Ravindra is raising his hand again. So we'll keep this as the last question.
Is there anyone else who has a question?
Yeah, anybody else? If anybody has.
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we will just ask Mr. Ravindra as a last observation or question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Ravindra, you want to say something?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah.
What are your views on black and white photography?
Love black and white photography.
Yeah, I know, but this art is disappearing.
No, not at all. I don't think it's disappearing at all. I think you can convert anything you want to black and white. What the advantage of black and white is, I think, especially in portraiture, colored light, so to speak, tells you where to look. It gives you a certain directional quality to it. I think as far as black and white is concerned, then you really have to deal with shape and line and light and shadow and brightness and contrast. And I think there's a certain snob value about, I'm into black and white and I'm into this and whatever. Personally, I think it's all cock. My personal view is you shoot what you want. If it looks good, it looks good. There are some pictures. Now, I just came back from a school reunion, and just for fun, all my Campion schoolmates, I shot portraits of everybody. And, I gave them all the option of color and black and white of the same shot, So, and some actually look better in color and some actually look better in black and white. So I don't think there's a, I think part of it is a little intrinsic snobbery that people have about, I only drink single malts. A blended whiskey is also perfectly okay if the company is right.
The beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder.
Yeah, this is well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, thanks, Atul. Thanks a lot. With this, we will end the session. It was very nice interacting with you. And thanks for spending this time with us. You achieved great heights in your profession. It's very nice and very inspiring, actually, for anyone, for that matter, to really understand how things can progress so well in life. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you all. Enjoy your Sunday.
And thanks a lot to all the participants. Thank you very much. We will have the next session on 12th of December. I'll send the details on the mail. Thank you very much.